Welcome to the Project StarBeam podcast. We're humanity's interstellar message service, where you can beam your personal messages to the stars. Why send messages? Most scientists agree aliens are out there listening. They may be listening, and we target the best listening sites. Aliens who can hear us are also beings we can learn from, maybe having solved the social problems we face today. We do this not because it is easy, but because it is hard. It demands high technology, art, bringing people together from around the world. And along the way, we learn while having fun. We are Project Starbeam.
All right. Well, my name is Chris Kent. I'm your co-host. I'm Chief Science Officer of Project StarBeam. My background is in computer science, biology, education, space studies, and entrepreneurship. Dr. Daystrom?
And I'm Michael Daystrom, co-host. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Project Starbeam. My background is engineering, computer science, space studies, cryptography, and also I'm a business strategist. ProjectStarbeam.com invites you to boldly go where no one has gone before. With personal interstellar messages, your words can travel beyond the stars, seeking out new life and new civilizations. Whether it's a wish, a memory, or a message for the future, send it into the universe. Visit ProjectStarbeam.com and launch your message today. Today, we're diving into innovation, drawing inspiration from the film October Sky, a perfect example of how curiosity and persistence can spark life-changing opportunities. October Sky is a biographical film based on the true story of Homer Hickam, a boy from a small coal mining town in West Virginia, and his dream of launching rockets. This was set during the 1950s, right around the time of basically the Soviet Union's successful launch of Sputnik, as well as other space activities that were going on. And, well, frankly, Homer was just absolutely influenced by what he was seeing and what he was hearing. And he took those influences, if you will, and took the time to actually project them into some innovative thoughts that he had, and took those thoughts and moved forward. Him and his group of friends over time began to build rockets, and in fact, their nickname at the time was the Rocket Boys. And they had a lot of successes, and they did have a lot of glitches. And we can certainly dive into that a little bit. But the key behind this is how Homer was just influenced and really impacted by what he saw and heard at the time, and how he was able to take that vision and make some things actually work. And this is critical to um, some of the components we've got in the background in reference to Project Starbeam and trying to help nurture innovation as well as critical thought. Hey there, Chris. What are your thoughts?
Well, this is it's a really great movie, and it resonates strongly with our project at many levels. And given it's October, it's appropriate. So we'll be discussing, on top of the movie itself, we'll be discussing how Project StarBeam is fostering the same spirit through our unique resources, and through how it works. We sell PIMS, and they provide a route to get the message out into the cosmos. So it's very poetic, but also we're forming a community, and we're doing educational opportunities. We're building products and projects for students. So it mirrors, it parallels what happened in the movie in a lot of ways, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah,
And then, yeah,
and
Homer's story, he reflects the real world innovation process. right? So experimentation, failure, iteration, the role of community support. It parallels to Project StarBeam's mission of providing resources, opportunities to students, and through funding from PIMS and our online store, and then helping them to explore new possibilities.
And one of the things that I just cherish about the story is the fact that uh, Homer and the rest of the crew never really gave up, despite the challenges that they had, as well as some bullying and criticism and so forth. Homer took the vision and built what he needed to do, and basically took that inspiration and ran with it, and created some pretty awesome successes that went along with that. Now,
Cool. But this is
I
an old movie, right? I mean, this is not, well, not old silver screen old, but it's from the 90s,
yes,
right?
yes,
So
but
yeah,
it's
so
interesting that
spoilers are okay. If you haven't seen it by now, then go and watch it. you know. So
yeah, it's absolutely worth it, and it's worth the time, and while you're sitting there kind of looking through it, um, reflect back on some of those moments that maybe you had when you were growing up, where you had an inspiration or an idea based on whatever, a TV commercial they happened to catch, or maybe looking up at the sky at night, and you know, having some thought as maybe a jet maybe streaked by, or you saw some shooting stars or whatever. As for me, I grew up. I was born in the mid 50s and grew up in the 60s when space had actually become uh, quite the enterprise, so to speak. Pardon the pun there. Okay, and it was interesting because I had a lot of that same thought in reference to trying to build things and try them out and so forth. So I had a lot of interesting successes and some pretty awesome failures that got me in a little bit of trouble. But I do think that the October Sky story is just absolutely epic, and it led us, because of those that it inspired, to basically where we're at today.
it also it struck me too because even when I was going to school, rocketry was still it was still something you could do pretty easily.
Mhm.
And now it's a little harder to do rocketry. There's a little more controlled, but it was also very dramatic. And so I remember, we formed the rocketry club, and when we did our season end launch, everyone got together. The whole school got together at the local ball diamond, and the bleachers were full, and we launched rockets for a solid 45 minutes, and they were the little Estes ones,
Right.
but they look impressive because, of course, the bodies are much bigger than the engines, right? But they went up there, whoosh, 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 whoosh. It was very, very good. And I noticed in the movie, the other thing that struck me too was, my family situation when I was growing up is I was in a household. We had an extended family, and I was living with my great aunt and great uncle, who raised me very well. But I was raised in a little bit of a time machine. I was raised with like conservative, not conservative political, but just more conservative values from the previous generation, traditional values, you can say. And there were certain things that I understand from Homer's father, where he wanted Homer to kind of follow in something that he knew was follow after him, and that he knew was lucrative and successful, because coal mining was actually very lucrative back in the day
Right.
in these towns. I mean, these towns had a good standard of living when those mines were open. So I can understand, his father being leery of something he just didn't understand. So, you want a good thing for your family. You want a good thing for your son, and but having that criticism, that's a hard thing to overcome. You know, so
Yeah, it definitely is, because I actually had experienced that somewhat myself. But back to your point, back in the day when Homer was growing up, that the coal mining industry and whatnot was basically a heritage that had been handed down for a generation or two in that particular neck of the woods, as well as other regions here in the country. And for somebody that the father possibly thought was destined to kind of pick up the family heritage and move into the mine and so forth, like everybody else had done. And back to your point too about it being a lucrative practice at the time, when Homer became basically driven by his thoughts and desires and so forth, which led to innovation. That was an awesome accomplishment. But also at the time, parents probably stood back and went, no, um, that sort of thing. I grew up kind of in the same environment, by the way, uh, where again it was in the 60s, and between science fiction as well as, I'll say it, science fact, what we were doing in the real world in reference to the Mercury and Gemini programs, and then later Apollo. There were certainly a lot of awesome things out there that you could check out and try. And the rockets we built, we had again some pretty good successes and some interesting failures. Um, I don't know if we have time for this or not, but I could tell you about the rocket car that we built.
Yeah, yeah, sure, of course.
Okay, all right. So
I'm sure the audience love to hear.
all right, so back back in the day, uh, there was a store called SS Kresge's, and Kresge's later became Kmart. Okay, but went to the store and I picked up this uh, Indy style race car. It was a plastic car with big giant wheels on it, and myself and my friends thought we could make a rocket car out of that. So we took the car and we cobbled out a small section in the back where we placed an Estes model rocket engine, and we lit the engine on fire, thinking that, wow, this will be cool. It'll just fly down the street like a rocket car. It did not, because we didn't understand the physics behind it at the time, and the car basically flipped over several times, rolled around in a circle, and kept flipping over while the engine burned until it exhausted. Okay. And a lot of people in the neighborhood sort of laughed at us because, oh, you tried to build a rocket car. Look at you guys. All right. So we took the car back to a friend of mine's house and, repaired the damage to it and whatnot, and decided that we were going to take a different approach. So we did some study in reference to the Estes model rocket engine that we used. Okay. And we knew what the engine flame time was going to be for the stage that would be set off. And we decided that we would calculate the amount of distance that the rocket could travel down the street if we maintained it in a straight line. And we put a small little loophole in the front of the car with a screw, and one in the back of the car. And then we got some heavy duty fishing line, and we drove a stake into one end of the streets and ran the fishing line along that to the other end of the street. We made our calculation as to what we felt the distance would be for that rocket to be able to accelerate and travel before the engine stage actually ran out of fuel, so to speak. And that was it. So we had it all calculated out. We took the rocket, put it basically on the line we had built, ignited it. The rocket took off and ran down the line, and everybody in the neighborhood's watching it, thinking, "Wow, this is really cool." Well, we had miscalculated. And so the rocket continued to accelerate, hit the stake at the other end of the street, pulled it directly out of the ground. And now what we had was a rocket car, okay, that was now flying in a circle tethered by this cable that we had attached to it.
Around
So
the other
everybody,
stake, right?
yep, and everybody had to duck for cover while while the fuel ran out in the Estes engine, and then the car just fell to the ground, and that was it. And that was our success, as well as a little bit of our failure, because we didn't quite understand the calculations the way we thought we did. But that kind of comes back to the innovation piece, because we did try that same experiment later and it was successful. But again, it's all part of success, failure, learning from the mistakes, but also being inspired by what you're seeing as well as what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
if you wanted to tether, if you wanted to tether an airplane, a rocket plane, you now had the experience to safely tether a rocket plane too, which you could have done something. There's always something you can learn from partial success or failure, right?
I'm chuckling a bit on that one because that is something we did attempt. And that did not turn out well. Nobody got hurt, but hypothetically, we damaged a piece of property that nobody ever realized we had damaged. So, and yes, that was decades and decades ago, but I'm going to leave it right there.
Right. So you're okay with the statute of limitations then?
Yes, absolutely. But again, it's a lot about us, kind of just taking the vision that we've got and also inspiring others.
Yeah.
And I come back and Homer was quite the inspiration, I think, for the time. Okay. And that movie, October Sky, it's worth the watch. And
Now, did he just? I'm struck because I watched the movie a couple of months back,
mhm.
and he went on, and I'm not sure how accurate the movie is. The other thing is, now I remember in the movie he went on to work in rocketry and aerospace, right?
Yes,
Did any of the other Rocket Boys also?
yes, they did.
There you go. There
So,
you go.
he had, with the crew he had assembled, there was a lot of success there, and that's pretty awesome. And I think that, when we sit back and we kind of look at uh, Project StarBeam and all the things we're actually trying to accomplish, education is a critical component to what we're trying to do, as well as inspiration. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to send a message to the stars? With Project StarBeam now you can. Personal interstellar messages let you share your thoughts, dreams, and wishes with the universe itself. Your message is encoded and beamed into space, your words traveling where no one has gone before. Visit projectstarbeam.com today and send your own PIM. The stars are waiting. Chris, if you'd like to uh, kind of take that for a bit,
Sure,
please.
sure. Yeah, we'll go. So yeah, let's transition into how how we're innovation focused. Um, so innovation isn't invention. This is one of the things I always like to say. People kind of mistake it for someone in a back room on a workbench cobbling together some sort of a gadget. Well, yes, that is a kind of innovation, right? But it's not just for scientists or engineers. Innovation is for anyone doing something, anyone adding value to something. So, like that's a product or a service, and the programs that we have slated are actually around product development. And now that's in the corporate world, in academia, this is a very specific thing. But it's all about finding new and better ways to do something or improvements to something, and something that other people value. And that's the balance. Like I remember, and this is a failed case of innovation where one of my buddies, and this is years ago, he's and it still is quite the artistic type, and he was making these T-shirts, and we're poor college students, like we have no money, right? And he's making these T-shirts, and then he's selling them, and he can get like 45, $50 for a T-shirt, and we're like, okay, that's cool. And he bought some KFC or something that night when we found out about this. I'm like, all right, this is cool. And then he's like, he's asking me. He says, "You got some business experience?" Because I had done business studies already, and I'd helped out and done some personal stuff as a kid, entrepreneurship. And so I said, yeah. And so and he was a little bit younger than me too. So he came to me and he said, how can I do this for a living? And we looked at it just for about an hour, and we looked at how he did things. And this is where it came down to he needed and lacked in innovation. So he was making these shirts, and they were nice. I mean, he was very creative, using bits of cloth that he had cut out and kind of like applique and various things like buttons and whatnot. He was selling like a very punk kind of style, right? And so he would modify these T-shirts, but it would take him about 8 hours to make a shirt. And just do the math: 8 hours, $45, revenue. This is not going to pay the bills. This is not going to keep you alive. So, I broke it to him in the end. I said, you got to make these about 10 times faster, or they've got to sell for about 10 times more. And he's like, well, they're not going to sell for $450. And I'm like, so that's where you are. And we explored a few ways, but there's just not that many ways to speed up handcrafting. And so they stayed a hobby, right? So, this is where in our courses, where we're getting people together and showing them modern tools like on the creativity side, some generative AI, the modern kind of software that you can use, all sorts of worlds of different tools that are available and that you're going to have to know in industry and in a whole swath of industries. You're going to have to know these things. So we teach people how to work with these different things. And then also, how to come up with products from written products. And then we also are going to do some hardware later on. How to come up with products that, that people really value, because you want to add value for other people. That's how you become a VIP, right? You become the most valuable person. MVP, sorry. And so, yeah, the story of October Sky, and where, he took hobby rockets and whatnot, and they just improved them. They iterated on them. And he had the idea of value, I think that's where the Sputnik come in, right? Because the world was on fire at the time from the Soviet space program and whatnot. I mean, it's a little bit before my time, but I've looked at the history, and you could see it in people's faces on the film and in their reactions, and even into the Apollo era, you could see it had such an impact. And so, they seized those young lads. They seized on that and made incredible careers in engineering and whatnot. And that's the kind of thing we want to, and not just engineering. We're going to be talking about any creative field, because it's not just about a gadget. It's about creativity, and it's about an understanding of what you're doing and what your goals are.
So what I would like to do, Chris, if you wouldn't mind,
Sure.
kind of in reference to um, Project StarBeam itself, okay, and the technology that we have developed to be able to send personal interstellar messages, or PIMs, into space. What is the value of that in reference to developing the overall project that we have going on?
That's a good question. And this is something that, when we first talked about the idea of METI and messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, when we first talked about that, maybe, I don't know, 3.5 years ago, something like that. And one of the things that clicked for me immediately was that you need something. If you're going to get a bunch of people involved, you're going to get a community together.
Mm-hmm.
You need something that's enjoyable or fun, or there's got to be some kind of a focus like that. And then you came up with the idea of, okay, well, why don't we send it like, short messages, tweets, because we can do that through, that's within our technological capability. and we can send that much information and actually get the range to do interstellar transmissions on a reasonable set of hardware. So it's a real world thing. We're not just doing a some sort of a gimmick where we'll send your messages out of the atmosphere, but then they just dissipate because the power is so weak. We're actually getting signals to where aliens could be. And so that unlocks the idea. It's a very profound thing. You're potentially making first contact. And then, well, you're sending messages, but what should you say? And when you start thinking about what would you say to make friends? What would you say? Because our goal is a positive message from everyone, getting everyone together who wants to participate and making it, inexpensive enough because a PIM is only $10. And we loop them over and over and over the course of years so that, because we don't know where the aliens are. So as we transmit it, that your thoughts, your visions, they get out there. And it's entirely possible that that fun little thing is going to reach another alien civilization. And we can go into more detail later on about where the aliens are. Right now, we just know, let's leave it and say that we know the likely spots they're going to be listening from because you can figure it out. But the core of it, the personal interstellar messages and the creativity, and that carries into our community as well. Because if you send a PIM, by the way, one of the biggest benefits is you get an honorary lifetime membership in our community. And so it brings everyone together in this creative spirit. And I think that's something I really saw in the movie, is that creative spirit. Even if it doesn't have to be technology. It's just that creativity.
Right.
And fun,
Go ahead.
And fun. I just wanted to say, really, at the end of the day, people have so many things in their life that is work, and you have work and school, and you need to have some fun in there. So this is beneficial, but it's also really fun to talk about aliens, and yeah, it's a neat kind of like a pastime, and a lot of people believe.
Well, they do. And the other side of it too that I do like is the fact that okay, once you send the PIM, it's out there. So depending on who's listening, okay, there'll be some that'll shrug their shoulders and go, okay, Earthlings, whatever. Okay. Um, there'll be others that will take that a little bit more seriously and decide that you know, working with us could be a huge positive. And there will be others that might not necessarily have what it takes from a technology perspective, other than maybe receive the message and be inspired by it.
Yep,
So,
that's it.
So we're definitely reaching out to the cosmos. And
the thing about it is too that, if you look at all the scenarios of, why haven't the aliens made themselves public if they're here? For the UFO slash UAP people, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. That's the new terminology. So, why haven't the UAPs, why aren't they public? Why hasn't something landed on the White House lawn? Or maybe it's secret, or we're going to talk about all that stuff. That's an ongoing thread. But, one of my favorite theories is the zoo hypothesis, that we're being observed, we're being studied, right? And there really isn't any other project in the world where we're unique. Is there's no project that really represents everyone who wants to get involved. There have been and are METI, METI, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence. There are METI projects out there, but they tend to send short bursts. And even the famous ones, like there was a Professor Drake back at Arecibo in the 60s. He kind of sent one, but they sent it, to a galaxy that's, hundreds of thousands of light years away. Like that's not going to actually accomplish anything. That's just a proof of concept. That's a gesture, right? And that gesture is important. We feel that, right? But ours, we're targeting things within 100 light years, and that opens up, by some estimates, maybe 20,000 or more star systems. So it could actually get to probes and whatnot, and there's no one else doing it. There's no one else doing it consistently, targeting areas where there's people, where aliens. I say people because they're going to be kind of people as well, where people are listening, and yeah, it's a profound thing. It gets people thinking. It's a cultural project on our end.
Right. And one of the things I do kind of like about it is if there's, let's just say a family out, just doing some kind of activity, and all of a sudden they decide, you know what, this has been very cool, very inspirational. Hey, let's just let the aliens know we did that, for example. All right.
Yeah.
Or there could be, a couple of folks sitting at a bar who are watching, a football or a baseball game or whatever, and decide that, hey, you know what, we're going to let the aliens know that, you know, the Chicago Cubs and White Sox will never play in the World Series together,
There
as
you go.
as
You
an
go.
example.
Yeah.
Okay. And and send their message, whatever, whatever it just happens to be. But there could be others that are just sitting back and wanting to let those outside of our direct influence know that there is a lot going on here on Earth. And our civilization does have value. And others may feel that hey, you folks on Earth do have some value.
Now, the interesting thing too about the legacy that we
Mhm.
leave. And we're gonna send, just for the audience out there, in case you're new, or in case you're just joining us. So how our PIMs work, I'll take you through the sequence. So you go online, you go to projectstarbeam.com, and the very first thing you're going to see on our homepage, there's other things you can navigate around. All the information is there you want, but you come into a screen where you can compose your PIMs, and that's personal interstellar messages. And then once you've registered the message and payments registered, because it does fund all of our educational program, funds the whole operation. This is one of the mainstays. So once you've registered it, it's now in our system. Our system is called the Universal Broadcast Loop. And so all of the PIMs basically go in a numbered sequence, and then we just as many transmitters as we can run, as many legitimate targets for where there might be listening posts or probes or motherships, or so both in the solar system and interstellar, we're going to beam these messages to the stars. And over and over, because in addition to having to target where they might be, we don't know when they're listening.
Mhm.
They might have to pay for radio telescope time on their end just the same. That's one of the things that SETI researchers, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, they have to pay for, those big radio telescopes. You got to pay for the hours on those. So, the budgets are not unlimited. And so with us, we loop as much as we can. And then we also have something called a primer. And it's like the Rosetta Stone, for people who know about the stone that was discovered that had, that had Egyptian hieroglyphs and had Latin, and I think it was Greek, right? Um,
Right.
so basically, like the two scholarly languages of the ancient world, the ancient, the Mediterranean world. And that's how they unlocked hieroglyphs, because they had this translation key. So we're going to build, and have actually already started. We're building up a translation key, so that in addition to the natural language, provided by your PIMS. So your hopes, your dreams, your fun stuff. Hopefully not too naughty, but if you want to be a little naughty, it's okay as long as we're allowed to retransmit that. Be honest. We want you to be genuine. Um, those things all combine into something that an extraterrestrial civilization can now receive. And unlike, say, if we were just to say send video into the sky, number one, the video is so much data that the signal is gonna degrade very quickly. Probably won't get out of the solar system. It'll degrade so quickly. And number two, they have no idea how to read our video codecs. They have no idea how to decode any of that. I mean, they don't even know what we look like necessarily. So there's no point of reference. So we provide the reference right from physics and math on up. And I would encourage anyone who hasn't seen it, the movie Contact, written by Carl Sagan, the book was, and the main actress is Jodie Foster. So that movie is a really excellent example of, how alien civilizations and our civilization can communicate. So they sent us the primer in that one, but that's how we managed to crack the code. And so these PIMs, that's why they're so important to the project. Now, getting back to the original question, it was how it resonates, right? How the PIMs resonate. Well, it's more than just the fun. It's understanding the technology behind it. It's understanding the significance behind it, and it's coming together to make this all happen. Because much like October Sky, if it was just the main character, the protagonist Homer, if it was just him and not the Rocket Boys, if he didn't have a community, probably he would be a coal miner, right? But it was working together that we form bonds of friendship, and we can learn a number of things. At the same time, we've got that strength that only comes from having a good crew.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. But I will say this, back to the PIMS, okay? People could have a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
also
And
from
we're gonna have in the community, once things get rolling a little bit. In the community, you're gonna have two options, right? You're gonna have the ability to be a curator, where we're gonna have a subscription option where you can pay and support the project that way, and then we'll give you some ability to shape what is going on, to curate, literally like a museum curator, and then you can also be a creator. And if you're a creator, that's the perfect for, say, students, young people, or people who are a little bit cash strapped. You're going to be able to create things, and and we might be able to send the best of that. And because you're putting in your efforts, otherwise you're putting in a creative effort instead. That's not a subscription option. So I think it's going to be something that can really give people the chance to express themselves. That's one of the things too. I think that really having self-expression and having people to listen, having people, with you. Maybe that's one of the things. I mean, in a very profound sense, that's one of the things that a lot of people today are missing. With the cold social media and isolation and this kind of thing. Well, this is going to be a really great community.
absolutely. And I just want to mention one more thing. Um, the PIMS themselves, okay, that could simply be a one-off if you need to be. Okay, so you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to subscribe. Again, if you're sitting somewhere and decide that uh, you want to put something out there about your favorite baseball team or not, okay. Or on the other side of the coin, if you're a family, for instance, just had a new child, and you want to send something out out to space in reference to that message or whatever, you have the opportunity to do that,
That's right.
and that's
Oh,
it.
and that's what I wanted to mention. Remember we were talking about the selling land on the moon and naming asteroids and whatnot. So there's a number of companies that have existed and exist out there, and I won't name them because I respect anyone who tries to pull something together. Except in the case of selling property on the moon, or having an asteroid or a star named after you, that's actually not possible. That's not Star names aren't done that way. They're decided by asteroid names are decided by the International Astrophysical Union. Basically government and international organizations decide all this stuff, and there is no property ownership on the moon. There's no legal basis for it.
Mhm.
Now, those people will take your money, but it's not real. It's not a real business, and it's dishonest, right? The same thing is there's a number of companies out there that will kind of just say, okay, we send your signals to space, but they're sending it in such a way that it's not going anywhere. I mean, yes, maybe a few photons might reach somewhere, but there's no signal. There's no information because you got to send it in a very specific way. It's got to work. You can't just be going on 0 bars on the cell phone. You won't actually get any connection, right? So you got to have a strong signal. And we do it for real. That's the thing with us. And you can even go on the site and you can see if you have a technical, curiosity for it. We provide you with all the basic calculations. We show you how it's done. And that's the nice thing about this, and the service we came up with, sending PIMs, is that this is a real thing. This is something that those messages will reach all of these different targets places. They will get there, you know, and yeah, so and
Awesome.
fun, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I think, again, I want to go back to October Sky. And
Sure,
again, it's still the month of October for a few more days anyway. And if anybody's got the time to check out the movie, you definitely should do that. Again, um, it's pretty inspirational. And
I agree.
I I believe that's it.
All right. Well, and it was a good October actually, and it's a momentous time. So I hope everyone. I wish everyone a good November, especially in the U.S. with big events coming up here in 2024.
Mhm.
And let's hope that no matter what goes on, because remember, Project StarBeam is a project for everyone. So, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe, if you're interested in sending a message of peace and friendship and being part of a community that can develop that, if you're interested in these kinds of things and you're interested in the technology behind it, you're interested in education, you're interested in any of the things we've discussed, then this is a really great opportunity for you, and you're welcome to come. Right? There's a way for you to join. There's a way for you to participate. But the best way that you can do, and you help us out, and you help out students in need as well, because a lot of our stuff is educationally focused, is go to projectstarbeam.com. And I know you've heard it a bunch of times, but send a PIM. And we really appreciate it. And you're making a social impact, one PIM at a time.
Well, thank you, everybody. And I will end this on one kind of funny note, and that is this uh, this month was my birthday. And let's see if anybody can figure this out. I turned 5.4 years old, and that has nothing to do with leap year. And I'm going to leave it right there.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Until next time.
ProjectStarBeam.com invites you to boldly go where no one has gone before. With personal interstellar messages, your words can travel beyond the stars, seeking out new life and new civilizations. Whether it's a wish, a memory, or a message for the future, send it into the universe. Visit projectstarbeam.com and launch your message today.